Lovely people, it's Monday. It's a brand new week. It's a brand new day, and we're here with a brand new recipe. We're making a tomato soup today. Welcome to Keep Cooking Daily. It's so lovely to have you here. I'm Jack. I'm the head chef of the Jamie Oliver Cookery School. And Jamie, whilst we're all spending a bit more time at home, Jamie's asked me to bring a little bit of what we do at the Cookery School to you every day with these daily cook-ups. We're going to make an incredible soup today. We're going to talk about techniques, about some chopping. We're going to talk about toppings as well. Think croutons, basil oils, pancetta chips, things like this. It's a really lovely start to the week. Whilst I've just letting a few others join, I've got two other people with me today in the studio. I've got Bryony. Hello, Bryony.
Hi, Jack.
How are you? How was your weekend?
Really good, thank you. How was yours?
Yeah, terrific. Are you ready for some soup?
Very ready for this. It feels like the perfect day for it, actually, weather-wise.
It does, doesn't it? It really does. Yeah, and Bryony, guys, is going to be on the chat, monitoring your comments, getting back to you, or a lot of you. Please, and Bryony, keep the questions coming to me, yes?
Will do.
That's why we're here today. Start a conversation. I've also got Hugo. Hello, Hugo.
Hello.
Back for another week.
Back for another week.
Happy?
Very happy.
Soup, tomato soup.
Tomato soup. It must be one of the greats.
Soup. It is, it is.
Comforting.
Comforting, warming, hearty, and it's a really simple recipe that we're doing today. Obviously, it's not summer, so you could use fresh tomatoes, but in the winter, we're going to rely on our store-cupboard, lovely tin tomatoes. Let me start. Let's start, guys. Look, please get all your comments, your questions, your thoughts in the chats below as I cook. I'll try my best to get back to as many of you as possible. And if there's things you'd like to see later on in the week or next week, let us know. So, tomato soup. 3 ingredients, basically, at least to start with. I've got some basil. I've got 2 cloves of garlic. And I've got 5 cans of tinned tomatoes, which we'll talk about in a moment. But for now, let me get this on the go. So I've got a nice, we're batch cooking this soup, which is a great thing to do. So I'm going on a big pan, nice medium-high heat. And we'll start by frying off some garlic and some basil stalks as well. That's it. So let me just shave off some of my basil with my lovely shears that I got just here. These are very trendy, Hugo. You think?
They are.
Yeah, I love them.
You're welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you. All right, so basil stalks we'll start with. Basil stalks, obviously, when they're not great raw, of course, but they're certainly not to be wasted. They work great at the beginnings of soups or ragouts or anything really. So I'm going to nick off the stalks, and we'll use them. The leaves will come back to later on when we make this incredible perfumed basil oil. But for now, I've just got some stalks just here that I'm going to roughly chop. With some garlic. Hello, Brian.
Fiona is tuning in from Oslo, and it's -11 there, so she said this is perfect. That tomato soup is perfect for her.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you for tuning in, guys. And if you know of a friend, a family member, a loved one who needs a soup recipe, who needs the batch cook one, this is the one for them. Give them a tag, let them know about this, and share the love, share the knowledge. Right, just finally chopping some basil and some garlic. I'm using my cross chop. We've talked about our cross chop before. We know it. To kind of mince these a little bit finer. You could, of course, use a garlic press for your garlic. There we are. That'll do for me. Already a wonderful, I hate to say it, but a wonderfully summery smell already with that basil, with the garlic. Lovely smell. Let's start with a nice generous glug of olive oil and go straight in with our basil and with our garlic. Here we are.
And Jack, obviously this is soup in its simplest form, but if you wanted to increase the veg that you're putting in at this point, you could add some celery, some onion, some carrot.
Fennel. I mean, anything you've got, courgette would work brilliant, absolutely, yeah. And then you can, if you're starting to really add lots of veg, you're starting to turn it into that kind of vegetable soup vibe, aren't you? Bit of almost a minestrone vibe. This is smelling glorious. Garlic and basil. Couldn't want any more. I'm in a season right now, salt and pepper. If you can, when you can, it's always best to season early on, season from within the dish rather than kind of just at the very end. You get a greater depth of savouriness running through rather than just having that kind of more pronounced salt at the end of your dish. So salt and pepper, nice and generous. In we go. And then the next ingredient is going to be our 5 cans of tinned tomatoes. Now, of course, if it was summer, you could use what you've grown, you could use what you found in the market or the supermarket. But as we're in the heart of winter, I'm going to be using 5 cans of tomato soups. This gives us like 2 kilos, isn't it, of tomatoes that we're using. Exactly, precisely. Wow, I got it right. Fantastic. So salt and pepper in, garlic's getting nice and caramelized. Let's go straight in with our soup, 5 cans. I'm also going to add half a can of water. Lovely. Any questions, Bryony? Everyone happy so far?
Lorraine is asking, can you use frozen basil?
Yes, you absolutely can. This would be a great recipe for frozen basil. And of course, you could use thyme, some rosemary would be nice in there. Anything that you have or that's going off in the fridge or that you like. Okay, dokes.
People tuning in from all around the world. Kerry Ann is in Queensland in Australia, and she says, well, it's obviously nighttime, so it's 26 degrees now, but it was 32 degrees in the middle of the day.
Amazing.
But yet, Shirl is expecting a snowy day. I don't know where they are, but they're expecting 15 to 18 inches of snow today. So there's people watching from all over the world with different climates.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. As I say, if you are just joining, welcome to Keep Cooking Daily. This is just kind of 30 minutes of kitchen inspiration each and every weekday to give you a new lovely recipe. Bryony's got a question for me.
Yes, Natalie is asking, are you using plum tomatoes or cherry tomatoes from the tins?
Natalie, you could use anything. I'm using plum tomatoes, but cherry tomatoes are really nice and sweet, so you could use them. You could use just chopped tomatoes as well, or passata. Plum tomatoes are a good bet. The kind of best grade of tomatoes will be used for plum tomatoes, so they're a really good bet. But anything that you like or that you have. And as I say, if you're using fresh tomatoes, it's about 2 kilos. Thank you for the question, Natalie. Okay, so look, our soup is cooking. If you are just joining us, that's what we're doing today. A lovely tomato soup to get us nice and warm in literally the heart of winter. I've got garlic, basil stalks, salt, pepper, and tomatoes blipping away gently on a kind of medium-low heat. And I'll let that do that for 15 minutes, although you could cook it lower and slower for a longer time, like an hour. Again, up to your schedule. In the meantime, let's talk about toppings for our soup. I've got a few different things to show you today. I'm going to start with our basil olive oil. And this is really nice and simple. And kind of a little bit of basil goes a long way here. Essentially, all I'm going to do is find myself a pestle and mortar, though you could use a little grinder or something like that, and smash up some basil with some salt, and then add some olive oil. Really straightforward. You could do this. It wouldn't be probably quite right for this dish, but you could do it with other herbs as well. And particularly when you know your herbs are kind of just going off a little bit, this is a great way to kind of keep them at their best by infusing them into an oil. I've just hacked up my basil a little bit just to kind of give them a head start. And now I'm going to add some salt, a little bit of salt, and get grinding. Hugo, are you happy so far?
Yeah, very
looking
happy.
Good, smelling nice.
Smells amazing. As you said, it really is summery smells. If you are somewhere where it's winter now, this is a great dish to transport you into those warmer months.
And if it is the summer, guys, where you are, if you're in Australia, wherever you are in the world, this soup works great cold. It's it's not quite a gazpacho. We couldn't call it that, but it would work really nice cold, straight from the fridge. And a lot of people do still enjoy soup in the summer months as well. All right, grinding down that basil, as you can see just here. So that's kind of turning wonderfully broken down like this. And now I just need to add olive oil. It really is that simple. And again, these little things like this, just a little bit goes a long way to turn your soup from a nice soup to a really exciting lunch or a really exciting dinner.
Laura has just tuned in, Jack, and is asking, what have you got in your pan on the hob?
Great question. It's why we're here. Was that Laura?
Yes.
Hello, Laura. Welcome. This is a tomato soup. So I've got garlic and basil stalks fried in olive oil. And then I added 5 tins of plum tomatoes and a bit of water as well. Later on, once it's cooked for 15 minutes, I'm going to taste it, add perhaps some vinegar, some olive oil, perhaps if it needs it. And I'll also blitz it down as well to the consistency of my liking. Now back to my olive oil just here. I'm making a super duper basil olive oil. So I've blitzed down or I've ground basil, and now I've just added this lovely olive oil, and it just it just transformed this soup and makes it even more exciting. And I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it like that. Hugo, are you happy with that, chef?
Smells amazing.
I can smell it from there.
Lottie is asking if you used fresh tomatoes, could you oven roast them first?
Oh, it would be glorious. It would be glorious, Lottie. And you get that kind of, those tomatoes, you get that little bit of char. They'd get particularly sweet, so your soup would be sweeter. Yeah, into a big tray, kind of like this one. You can take your tomatoes, add lots of olive oil, salt, pepper, and they'll go just that little bit charred, which will make them that little bit sweeter in the oven. Delicious. Excellent. All right, now, guys, we're going to talk about croutons. Oh, yes. And we're going to do croutons two ways today. One of them is going to be with garlic and rosemary. The second is going to be with beautiful cheese on top. So the first thing you need to do is take some stale bread. Stale bread works best, and just kind of hack it up into chunky chunks. Chunky chunks. Does that fit description, Hugo?
Yeah, they're chunky chunks, I'd say.
Lovely. So here we go. That's it. That's one.
And we're using wholemeal bread today for that sort of nutty flavour to complement the tomatoes as well.
Nice. There we are. That's half my bread. I'll get that in one bowl, just here. And then I'll just get the rest in my other bowl. If you're just joining us, guys, welcome to Keep Cooking Daily. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. And today we're making tomato soup, which is just a glorious thing to know how to make. Really easy to kind of swap and substitute things to your liking. And if you do have questions, comments, thoughts about this recipe or any other recipe you'd like to see, let us know, and Bryony will let me know. Bryony's waving a hand. What's up,
Got
Bryony?
a question from Michelle. She asks, for the basil oil, was it just a bit of oil and basil leaves?
Hey, Michelle. Yes, it was. It was just olive oil and basil leaves. A bit of salt too, obviously for flavour, but also to help break down that basil. And you could have used like a spice grinder or a little blender, if that's your thing. Okie dokie. All right. So I've got my bowls of croutons. Let's start with just the very, very basics for both of these bowls. Basically, olive oil, salt, and pepper. Let me just have a little bit of a clean down, and then let's do it. So. First of all, in terms of basics, you want some olive oil, salt, and pepper all over the bread. So salt, dash of pepper. There we are. And then some oil, just a little bit.
Jan is asking, how long will the basil oil last?
It will last a pretty long time, if I'm honest, Jan. It will last about a week in the fridge at least. That's a safe bet, nice and safe. Yeah.
It won't be quite as vibrant. It will lose its colour gradually over time, but the flavour will still be amazing.
And that's why if you do have basil that's just starting to go and you can't think of a reason to leave it, turning it into that basil oil is a great way basically to extend its life. Lovely. So just here, let's move on and start making some rosemary and garlic croutons. Got a little spare one just here. So I've got some garlic and some rosemary. I mean, we're doing two crouton ideas just here, but, you know, Hugo, talk me through some other ways to pimp your croutons.
You could add a pinch of paprika, you could add some dried oregano, some crispy capers would be really nice added to the tray, some harissa. Instead of using the oil, you could just use a couple of teaspoons of harissa. That would be really nice as well, especially with tomatoes. That would work fantastically.
I love it. So guys, like with a lot of our recipes at Keep Cooking Daily, treat them as concepts, as principles, and have fun in the kitchen, make them your own, and share the photos with us, share the love. Let us know how you got on. We'd love to see it. I've got some garlic in here. Now I'm going to add some rosemary leaves. I won't chop them up, keep them whole. And then I've got salt, pepper, olive oil, and that's it. Really straightforward, really simple. Let's go big on the rosemary. I'm a big fan. Give this a little bit of a mix.
Maria Maria has asked, are you making a hot or cold dish?
So this is a hot dish because in London right now, the weather is pretty slappy, pretty cold. So it's gonna be a nice warming, hearty soup, though you could put it in the freezer. You could put it in the fridge once it's made and have it cold. Again, it's up to you, what you fancy, what your climate's like. Lovely. All right. Now, let's get these croutons onto a tray, shall we? Nice oven-proof tray. I don't need any extra oil. There's already some in the bowl. There we are. Looking good.
Julie is asking, can you freeze the basil oil, Jack?
You can, absolutely. And that's another great way. Is that Julie?
Yes.
Great question. It's another great way of preserving herbs. So if your basil is going off a bit, you can knock it down like I did in a pestle and mortar, add some oil. You can even keep them in little ice cube trays. And it's a great way to have that basil kind of on tap for when you need it, when you don't have any fresh stuff. It works with any other herbs as well. Great question. Love it. Okie dokes. I've got 1 tray of croutons just here. Garlic, rosemary, salt, pepper, oil. Done. Next up, I'm going to add a wee bit of cheese to these. Oh, yes. A bit of cheddar cheese. How delicious. Although you could use Parmesan, you could use red Leicester, anything that you have really. And just a little bit is going to go a long way in kind of, it's adding seasoning and umami to today, really, isn't it? Lovely stuff. Look at this.
They've got a really nice kind of like cheese on toast vibe when they come out the oven.
Yeah, and a little bit goes a long way too. That'll do. Don't want to go too much.
Nice big chunk in there.
I know. I'm wondering whether I leave that in.
I think let's just see what happens.
Okay then.
Rosanna is asking, can you freeze this soup once you've made it?
Yes, you can. Freezing, I think we don't rely on our freezer quite enough, Susanna, and I think this is just the perfect thing to freeze. We're making lots of portions just here. And so just think about you and your household and how many people you usually cook for, and then freeze it in that amount of portions. So if your household is a household of 4, freeze it into portions of 4. It's a great thing to freeze. Hey, Bryony.
And Fiona is also asking, can you freeze the croutons and then just toast them when they're ready to serve?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I've just put my croutons in the oven. They can be in the oven for like 180 degrees for like 10 minutes. But instead of putting them in the oven, you could put them straight in the freezer and you're done. Great idea. Lovely.
Anita said, I think I heard you say the harissa can be added to the croutons. Would that be harissa paste or something else?
It was harissa paste that Hugo was talking about, isn't it?
Harissa paste, yeah. And you can get rose harissa paste, you can get smoked harissa paste. Just go for whatever you've got, really.
Yeah, and yeah, it's kind of time for you to freestyle, really. Chipotle flakes would be nice, particularly if your soup is in some way kind of Mexican-inspired. As you like. Right, my soup is bubbling down just a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that heat off, and then we're going to blitz it. Once it's blitzed, we'll taste it and adjust it to how we like. I think a bit of vinegar might be needed, a bit of olive oil. Let's see. In terms of the blitzing too, Bryony, how do you like your soup? Like super thin? Do you like it really, really chunky? Something in between?
I like it. I like quite a thick soup.
Thick soup, okay. And then let's try and do this by democracy. Hugo, what about you? What's your preference of soup?
I like it as thin as it comes.
Hugo, just being difficult on this Monday. Lovely. As thin as it comes, is that right?
No, nice and chunky, especially with tomatoes.
I think I'm going to stick with Bryony. Now vote you, Hugo. Let's go chunky.
Great.
So you could smash this into a Magimix food processor, but I'm just using my trusted handheld device. And just kind of the odd pulses here and there.
Rita is asking, what could you add to the soup if the tomatoes are a bit too tart?
Great question. Who was that, sorry?
Rita?
Fantastic question. So that can be the case, that they're a little bit too sharp. And let's talk about that when I taste it. I'm thinking either a dash of sugar or a dash of olive oil to build the richness. But look, when you're tasting things, that's exactly the kind of, that's exactly what you should be looking out for. I know we always say check for seasoning. I know we say that a lot, but really that, for me, check for seasoning means check its saltiness, check its sourness, check its richness, check its heat, as in spicy, if it's a spicy dish. So you're looking for all of those kind of flavor profiles, not just is it salty enough. So that's what I'm going to do just now. Give it a taste. How is it seasoning? I.e., how salty is it? How sour is it? How rich is it? Let's have a look. Purely for professional reasons. I'll try it one more time. It's pretty delicious.
Smells it. And now, you know, if acidity wasn't quite there, a bit of vinegar. If it wasn't quite sweet enough, you could add a bit of balsamic. Something like that would be really nice if you wanted to avoid adding some sugar.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea. So look, it's quite astounding how something with so few ingredients, so few techniques, and so little time can taste that great. It really does taste amazing. Better soup that you'll get out of any can or any tub. It's delicious. Now, let's talk about adjusting. Okay. Sourness is an important thing. Richness is an important thing. So let's think, is it salty enough? Yes, it is for me. Is it rich enough? I kind of just want that little tiny bit more. So you can add anywhere up to like 200 mils of olive oil, which is a lot. I'm gonna go something like 75 mils to 100. There we are. And then I'm going to add a dash of vinegar. It's sweet enough. I want a little bit more sharpness. Again, acidity, guys, is really undervalued in the kitchen. I'm not saying that every meal should be a sour meal, but a little bit of sourness from vinegar, from lemon, from lime, from somewhere really lifts all the other flavor profiles and balances things really well. If you're ever in doubt in the kitchen, something's not quite right, a bit of acidity goes a long, long way. Stir this through. Let's get one more bad boy shot of this. Look at this.
Alicia is tuning in from Florida, where it's a bit cooler today, so she's loving this recipe, but it's also her birthday. So do you want to give her a birthday shout out, Jack?
Was it Alicia?
Yeah.
Alicia, happy birthday, Alicia. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you recreate the soup maybe today. Where was it? Was that in Canada?
Florida.
Florida. So it's, wow, it must be like 6 a.m. or something. Breakfast time, so perhaps for dinner. It's really delicious. Happy birthday. Hugo, you getting hungry?
I'm getting very hungry, especially for those croutons.
Let's do it. Let's serve this up. Look, I'm going to serve this soup maybe 3 ways, as I've got so many different types of toppings. The soup's ready. It's ready to go. It can go in the fridge for another day. It can be served cold. Look, here's some croutons that I made earlier. I've got one just here. Let's do some close-ups of them, shall we? I've got my rosemary and garlic croutons just there, looking really nice and gnarly, and nice and crispy too. Likewise, I've got my cheese croutons just here, which are just kind of really tangy cheese on toast style. Look at this, looking great. All right. Hugo, what kind of toppings would you like in your soup today?
I'll go for the cheesy croutons, please, Jack.
Cheesy croutons. I've also got, if you ever have some, pancetta or bacon spare from Sunday or something like that, some lovely pancetta roasted in the oven so they turn into crisps is a great shout. I've got my basil oil. We're having a party. Let's serve this up, and I'm going to love you and leave you and then let you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, if only Monday. A nice big ladle. Swap these around, sort stuff out. Here we go. That's better.
A few people who missed the beginning are asking again if you can freeze this soup, Jack.
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely. Oh, hello. Completely off. Ta-da. Absolutely, you can freeze the soup. Very, very well, in fact. Have a think about, as a household, how many people you often eat for. Is it one? Is it two? Is it more? And freeze it in those portions. Here we go. Already. How long has that taken me? Does anyone know? Is that 25 minutes, 20 minutes?
It's under, it's 22 minutes.
22, very exact.
22
seconds. Minutes. And you know what? I've really been faffing about today and taking my time. So yeah, really that simple. And I promise you, it tastes as good as, hopefully you agree it looks. It tastes as good as I've described. Nice and sweet, nice and fresh and tart, rich from the olive oil. I absolutely love it. There is our 3 bowls of soup.
Elizabeth from Canada is laughing because she just said that she has a house full of boys, so she never has any spare bacon, like you mentioned, Jack.
I know. I was thinking about that. It's a bit optimistic, but if you're ever lucky enough, then that's an idea. To get some little shards of pancetta in. Look at this. You can even kind of crumble it on top.
A few people are asking, would you ever add any cream to the soup?
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of cream's kind of going to give you richness for sure. But a bit of kind of creme fraiche will give you a bit more, will liven it a little bit, or even yogurt. Both of them have an element of sourness to them, which kind of give them a bit of kind of freshen them up a little bit. So I'd go for something like creme fraiche over cream, but you could certainly add cream if that's your thing. Lovely. Let me add my cheesy croutons for Hugo.
Thank you, Chef.
I'm just going to add in this kind of whole cheese crisp as well for you. Get the whole thing in. And then you can, if you're feeling fancy, kind of just break some croutons on top. And then finally, I've got my basil oil, which I'll just get just up here.
Moira is asking, how many servings are you getting from this soup that you've just made, Jack?
Lots of servings. Is it, Hugh, correct me if I'm wrong, Hugo, is it 6 servings?
It's 6, yeah.
Fantastic. So it goes a long way, it really does. And this is 6 generous servings. I mean, look, check this out. Here, in just 25 minutes, is my tomato soup with basil oil, incredible croutons, and I've showed you quite a few other toppings as well. Lovely people, it's all over already. I hope you've enjoyed today. Thank you so much for joining in. All of the Keep Cooking episodes that we've done so far are still on the Facebook page. You check them out if you like. Tag friends and family and loved ones if you know they need a soup recipe in their life. And give this a go, guys. Do let us know how you get on. If there are particular recipes or things you'd like to see in the future, do let us know. Stay in touch. Keep the conversation going. And look, have a great day. If you cook this one, enjoy it. Have a great day, and I'll see you very, very soon. Lots of love. Have a great Monday.